All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive with me. Today, we're tackling something that I think a lot of us can relate to, especially in the accounting world. It's this weird phenomenon where, you got a ton of time to finish a project, but you always end up scrambling at the last minute.
Yeah, definitely. Happens all the time.
Like, take closing the books, for example, right?
Yeah,
You could have 2 weeks, you could have 3, but it always feels like it comes down to the wire, right?
it does. It's like this mad dash every single time.
Exactly. Late nights, tons of coffee.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Well, one possible explanation is this thing called Parkinson's law.
Parkinson's law, the idea that work expands to fill the time available for its completion.
Exactly. And for accountants, it's like this law is basically our reality.
It really is. We see it play out constantly.
But here's the thing that I always wonder about. Like, sure, we have all this time, but does the quality of the work actually get better because we're stretching it out?
That's a great question. And honestly, not necessarily.
Right. Sometimes I even feel like the opposite happens. You get so bogged down in the details that you lose sight of the bigger picture.
I think that's spot on. That extra time, it can actually become a breeding ground for procrastination or perfectionism. You end up second-guessing yourself, overthinking every little thing.
Yes. And then all of a sudden it's the last minute and you're just trying to get it done.
Exactly. And all that stress, it doesn't necessarily translate into better quality work. It's just, well, more stress.
So what if we tried something completely different? What if, instead of giving ourselves all this time, we actually shorten the deadline?
Now, that's an interesting thought. And you know what? There's actually this really cool anecdote about an accounting team that did exactly that.
Really? Tell me more.
So they were used to this, like, 2-week, 3-week grind to close the books, the usual, with that big, frantic push at the end.
I know that feeling all too well.
Right. And they kind of stepped back and realized, hey, this is kind of brutal. Like, no one actually enjoys this constant state of panic. So they decided to try something radical. They condensed their entire closing process down to just 1 week.
Wow. That's a huge difference.
Right. But you know what? It actually worked. They managed to close the books in a week, and the quality of their work didn't suffer at all. In fact, some people even said it improved.
How is that even possible?
Well, because they were forced to be way more focused and efficient. They had to prioritize, streamline their processes, and eliminate all the unnecessary stuff. It really shows you that sometimes working smarter means challenging those assumptions about how long something should take.
That's such a powerful example. And it makes you wonder, why do we cling to these arbitrary deadlines? Especially for something as complex as, let's say, financial statement preparation.
I know, right? Companies have something like 6 months to put those statements together, but how often does it turn into this 6-month-long procrastination marathon?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we just accept that last-minute scramble as part of the process.
When it really doesn't have to be. There are ways to break free from that cycle.
Okay, so how do we actually do that?
Well, this is where the magic of automation comes in.
Reading about a company that said their solution could create financial statements in just minutes.
Minutes. It's incredible. And it completely changes how we think about what's possible. And look, it's not about cutting corners or sacrificing quality. It's about working smarter, leveraging tech to free up our time and energy for more strategic stuff.
So we're kind of coming back to this idea of Parkinson's law, but with a twist. Remember that saying, if you wait until the last minute, it only takes a minute to do.
Haha.
Obviously, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but does make you think. If technology can really handle those time-consuming tasks, how can we reimagine our workflows and what we choose to focus on? What could we achieve with all that extra time? It's something worth pondering, don't you think?
Definitely something to think about.
And that's a wrap on today's Deep Dive. See you next time.